everybody. Welcome back to Psychedelics Today. This is Joe Moore, joined by Carl Fuller, and we actually have a special guest today. All right, just us now, and let's see where we go. I'd like to talk about this article you pointed out, Carl Yeager, Marijuana Moment. Again, Kyle Yeager is really killing it.
He is.
Just constantly pushing stuff out. So this article came out 5 days ago, and we're recording on the 22nd. So it came out on December 17. Title: Activists file Colorado ballot initiatives to legalize psychedelics and establish healing center program. I also heard that there's two different initiatives coming in from maybe two different groups. Somebody actually came in on a webinar we were running, John Dennis and I, about Oregon, and we're asking about Colorado. What do you think about this decrim nature bill versus this other one? One has a 4-gram possession limit, which seemed really low to me for mushrooms. And then the other one, I'm not sure has any. But I don't know. Any impressions you had, Kyle, on that article about Colorado?
I mean, just excitement to see, and I'm interested to see how they kind of define that healing centers. It sounds like it's along the lines of what they're doing with Oregon, but I think the exciting thing here is that it doesn't seem solely focused on psilocybin. It seems that it would include psilocybin, DMT, ibogaine, and mescaline that's not derived from peyote. So that's actually really exciting if we could get healing centers with a variety of medicines. It's not just psilocybin. I'd be really interested to see if there's a lot of backing here in Colorado for this.
Right. It's an interesting state, and I would say there's a chance. Yes. I can't give like a percentage of what I would think. Well, I'll give one anyway, even though it's probably wrong. But I'm thinking like 30 to 40% chance of this passing in 2022, if that's what they're hoping for. I would think that there would be much better odds in 23, given we'll have more progress. We'll have more celebrities coming out and politicians endorsing this. But it'll be pretty interesting if it could come through this year. Yeah, and it's nice to see this progress, right?
Yeah. So it sounds like there'd be no criminal or civil penalties for possessing, storing, using, processing, transporting, purchasing, obtaining, ingesting, or giving away any natural medicine for people 21 years or older, which is exciting. It also says allowable under 4 grams, and then here it continues on. While some activists are taking issue with the 4-gram limitation, the measure does say that the allowable amount, quote, does not include the weight of any material of which the natural medicine is a part, including dried fungus or plant material, unquote, and only counts psychoactive compounds themselves, which that seems really interesting. So what does that mean? If you have X amount of dried mushrooms, are they really trying to understand how many grams of psilocybin are in that mushroom?
Wow.
I don't know what that means. That's interesting.
Right. So there's a lot of nuance here, and of course, like that's one of our favorite things to say. Hard saying, because there's so much nuance and depth to so many of these conversations. So let's see. I'm hopeful people are trying to make the right moves here. I'm a little concerned that nobody asked my opinion, but maybe that's because I think too much of myself. I don't know. But I live here. I'm loud. I might not live in Denver, but still part of the same voting group. Like I love this stuff. I think it's helping us go in the right direction. I'm a little hesitant sometimes because a lot of this stuff just doesn't seem holistically informed to me.
How so?
It's the drug policy conversation in general. This is like the Carl Hart. Are we doing mental gymnastics to support the drugs we like and to keep other people down? Or are we working for the betterment of all humanity, and like, stopping putting people in prisons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Typically these conversations don't seem in line with that. I know that's a little
What would be
unfair.
like a holistic approach to you, like not just limiting it
Well, number
to
one,
service
at the
centers
federal
and
level, let's
legalizing?
eliminate the drug scheduling system. Or we can do the same thing at the state level. Say, hey, like state and underneath the state, like county and municipalities, we're not doing the drug war anymore. The drug scheduling system is now irrelevant, and we're going to spend all this kind of drug enforcement dollars on treatment and research on how to help these people. So, for instance, that opens the window for psychedelics for treating addiction. Um, People, when they have money, this is one of Carl Hart's big points, people have less severe drug problems and they recover quicker from their drug problems if they have a reasonable situation around them, right? So, like, not a troubled home, not a ton of bullshit going on. So the problem with
I
drugs
know some
is,
people that have all that and they still either struggled or OD'd and died. So I don't know how
well,
much
this is
that
N of
claim.
one thinking, Kyle.
I know a few.
Anecdotal
Yeah,
thinking versus Carl Hart's data. Carl Hart has all the addiction data, and I've seen him presented a few times. So it's worth reviewing his literature. Yes, wealthy people have monstrous drug problems sometimes, but it's healthy home situations, like good relationships, good habits, Um, and, people in a lot of situations can maintain a drug addiction for a long time without it really disrupting their lives too bad, and Chasing the Scream, they talk regularly about how people were able to maintain heroin habits for 40 plus years and their family would never even know because they have supervised injection sites, free heroin. They don't have to hunt around and score. They have jobs, they're supporting their whole family and they're active users. So there's a lot of cultural context here that go, and so to me, yes, it's a good, and I say this too often. Yes, decriminalizing psychedelic compounds is a step in the right direction. To me, it's not a holistic step because we're still putting people in jail. And my favorite example lately is that black man in Texas that went away, I think, for the rest of his life for a gram of cannabis.
that's crazy.
And, we'll probably see the same thing with crack or worse, right? PCP. Oh, he's got PCP. The cops are going to kill that person. We see video of that. So, yes, I want to see this happen. I'm excited about people putting in so much attention to it. I just want to remind people it's a step in the right direction towards a good drug policy. The Portugal and Swiss model, in my mind, have proven it. Some people will say, well, they're a poor country, so it's not relevant, and it's a different culture, so it's not like fair to make that analogy. But if we look at what our tax dollars are doing now, it's not okay. And we need more access to this for sure, like psychedelics for therapy. We need more money being allocated to research. We need, we just there needs to be a lot more going on. And like the decrim approach, I've heard some things from the DN camp saying no clinicians, no scientists, nobody will ever understand this. So the best option is to keep it out of the hands of clinicians and keep it in the hands of the people. And I'm like, cool. But, you're dealing with a decades long data gap here. And we've got to backfill a lot of what we need to know about these compounds before I think people can say, oh, yeah, sure, ibogaine's totally safe. Let's use that a lot. When in fact you could die from not dosing properly. Does that make sense? Like I'm not trying to slam this shit. It's like I do like to walk around Denver. Well, sorry, allegedly, I like to walk around Denver when I would go there and have mushrooms in my pocket because it's decriminalized. It's actually a
You
very
feel a little bit
different feeling.
safer. Yeah.
Yeah, and in Jamaica when we were there, like that's an
I didn't
awesome
think twice
feeling.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Definitely
don't
takes
know,
the
like
paranoia out of your head.
totally. So, that's great, but are we really separating people like this good and bad drugs thing? Exceptionalism. It's just something we need to come back to regularly. Yes, this is good, but it's, you know, you can't walk 2 miles once in your life and then like that's all the exercise you do. We have to like keep going and keep pushing for what we think is right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just thinking about safe supply, I think that's huge, right? Just thinking about all the contamination, adulterants out there, people
Hmm.
getting harmed, sometimes dying.
Yeah. Um, so I have heard about this pack, New Approach pack. Um, they were behind a number of, I'm kind of quoting here. I'll just actually read it. New Approach PAC, which has been behind a number of state marijuana legalization campaigns, as well as Oregon's medical psilocybin legalization initiative. Um, so New Approach is involved, it sounds like. Um, and yeah, we're coming up on 2 years since psilocybin containing mushrooms has been uh, decriminalized in Denver. Well, lowest drug enforcement priority, remember. This is so much. But yeah, like this idea of ibogaine, DMT, mescaline, psilocybin, psilocyn, like that's all extraordinary. Um, no
Yeah, I mean, that
civil or
would
criminal
be a huge
penalties
step.
for possessing, storing, using, processing, transporting, purchasing, obtaining, ingesting, or giving away natural medicine without natural medicine. I like the phrasing natural medicine. I always kind of irks me. Without remuneration to a person 21 ages or older, as long as it's under the allowable amount of 4 grams. Jiminy Cricket, like that kind of, well, like 4 grams of DMT and 4 grams of mushrooms is so different. It's like one goes a long way and one will last
Well,
you
if you read
a
that
few years
paragraph
maybe.
below, it has that statement about natural versus the compound. So again, I don't know what that means. I guess if you had synthetic psilocybin, you'd allow to obtain 4 grams versus if you had mushrooms. Doesn't seem like there might be a limit there.
Right. So this language does make it look like it's 4 grams of psilocybin then and psilocin,
Yeah, yeah,
not 4 grams of mushrooms. That's really
yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
So it's
Or yeah, if you have like synthetic mescaline, right?
four
DMT.
grams of mescaline. That'll go far enough, I guess. Um, yeah, like a lot of people are pissed about um, possession limits, but there's this whole concept, I guess, and the idea of political science calling itself political science bothers me because it's certainly an art more than a science, and there's this concept in there about what is legally possible in a certain window of time, and some of these people working on these issues have determined this is what they think is legally possible in this amount of time. So
Hmm.
that's probably why they went that way, um, as opposed to no possession limits because I'm a free human and like the normal kind of libertine talk track around what you should and should not have access to. Like, of course, yeah, I don't think anybody should tell me that, but I'm also going to say like let's shoot for what's possible, not what's perfect. Um, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so I
Interesting.
guess
So
we'll
there's a
see what
second
happens.
measure that New Approach Pack filed on psilocybin and psilocin. Um, it would similarly remove criminal penalties for the personal use of the substance and create a regulatory model overseen by DORA, Department of Regulatory Agencies, which is who you report therapists to who are being bad, um, to allow adults to access the medicine at a healing center. So it looks really nearly identical to Oregon, it sounds like by the language. Um, yeah, and this article has like both of the languages included here. Um, yeah. Well, that's an interesting topic. I hope for it to be progress and not to be too annoying for folks. I know a number of the people working on it, and I'm happy they're doing it. Um,
Yeah.
next article here. Uh, some Texas news. This is from the magazine Austin American Statesman. Title of the article: Dell Medical School starts center to study psychedelics for mental health treatments. And this is published on December 16. So it looks like a school in Austin, Dell Medical School at UT Austin, is opening a center. And they're going to be doing some cool stuff with ibogaine, ayahuasca, psilocybin, MDMA, looking at PTSD, anxiety, and severe depression. I think that's a big win, especially that this is happening in Texas, right?
Yeah, and so this isn't just the vet bill. It sounds like this is something completely new.
Right. Yeah. This is. Oh, you mean that thing that the. Oh God, I'm gonna totally butcher this dude's name. No, I'm not even gonna get this guy's name. Are you talking about the Texas bill that we were kind of chatting about?
For well, specifically to do research for the vet population, and I believe it was just really focused on psilocybin. So this sounds like they're doing a more comprehensive research on all the substances, which sounds really nice and doesn't sound like it's just limited to PTSD for vets.
Right. And that might have been the bill that Crenshaw was involved in, that you're chatting about. But yeah, this is just a whole new research center just getting spun up, which is, I think, important. Like we need, all the research can't come from San Diego and San Francisco and New York City, right? We need geographical diversity in our data sets. We need kind of diversity in genetic populations and backgrounds so that our data at scale makes more sense when we start doing meta-analysis on these things and figuring out what goes where, what goes best where, right?
Yeah. Oh, actually, it does say here the center at Dell Medical is starting with a focus on veterans for PTSD and working with Heroic Hearts Project. So,
yeah.
Cool.
Oh, Heroic Hearts. Cool. Nice work. Heroic Hearts. Good stuff. And I guess kind of a culture piece here, man. Feel a little bad even talking about this, but famous YouTuber, Psyched Substance, had kind of like a big situation. He's quite public about it. It's a massive psychedelic YouTube channel. You've seen some of their stuff?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this guy would actually like do consume psychedelics with other people on camera just to show YouTubers what it looked like. One of the things I didn't like he did was like film at a festival when people were all partied up, and there's a real consent problem there in my book, but maybe he thinks otherwise. But anyway, I think it looks like he wrapped up shop for a little bit. Some family drama and some substance use issues. So looks like he's doing all the right things and he'll be fine. But just worth pointing out, like even media personalities in the space have problems. It's probably super obvious when we have problems.
We're all human.
Yeah. And you can listen to this or watch this YouTube video on Psyched Substance's YouTube channel. I think that's a big one.
Was this more recent? Because I feel like it's something like that
in the last week or
years
so.
ago. Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. Seems like it happens once in a while. Like it's a cyclical thing for him. So next one here from 9 News, which I think is a Colorado thing. So state panel makes recommendations for safe ketamine usage. A panel looked at the drug's use during pre-hospital emergency medical care. So Colorado, we had this issue in 2019 with Elijah McClain, and Elijah was, kind of a quirky kid, certainly not any kind of a gangster or anything like that, and he was killed by the police, effectively. And I forget if these people went to prison or not, but they should have. So wildly OD'd on ketamine. And so the state's now saying, okay, we need to have state level recommendations on what do we do with this, and how do we use it in terms of like chemical restraint and or medical first responders probably too, right? So I'm glad the state is looking at this. So the article says here, Colorado Department of Health and Environment is responsible for providing licenses or certifying those who provide medical care in pre-hospital environments. They can issue waivers to EMS agency medical directors who meet certain criteria, and those waivers permit them to administer ketamine. So there are kind of ambulance drivers that can administer ketamine, and EMS, paramedic, et cetera. There's certain levels of training you need in order to do that, but what we know is it's one of the safer compounds to use, but so safe apparently that cops can pressure the EMS into administering it.
I wonder if there should be stuff around regulations around can you use that to sedate people.
Yeah, if you're doing that, there needs to be a really specific set of criteria. And as of right now, I believe the police can just tell, EMS to do it. EMS, I don't know if they can stand up and say, no, it's not medically a good situation right now.
Right. Brings up an interesting question. It's just around like interventions. If somebody is like very erratic and can't control them, like what are some of those interventions? Like, getting tased, or maybe a non-lethal like gun of some sort, or getting shot, or is it using chemical interventions? I don't know what the right and ethical approach there is, but
mm-hmm.
does bring up some questions.
The state issued a 126-page report. It recommended first responders shouldn't use the sedative for excited delirium syndrome. That's quite the term, right? Have you ever seen this David Cross movie, Run, Ronnie, Run?
I don't think so.
So you're familiar with David Cross, Tobias, from Arrested Development there? So he got famous in this movie. He was like a redneck dude, cut off jean shorts, cut off denim shirts and stuff too. And he got famous for being able to run away from the police and doing videos of it. And one of the first times he got caught, he started yelling, "They're brutalizing me!" And just over and over again. It killed me. If anybody hasn't seen David Cross's Run, Ronnie, Run, I recommend it. And if you hate it, I'm sorry ahead of time, but it's one of my favorites. I talk about it regularly. But yeah, just reading this further, descriptors such as hyper-aggression, increased strength, and police non-compliance are listed as criteria for this assessment, and has been associated with racial bias against African American men. Quote here from Dr. Iwanicki. We felt it was really important that we described more in detail what the patient should look like who receives ketamine, right? Because like a lot of the harm comes from when it's not really indicated, like when it's a bad idea to administer. So here's another final quote I'll get into. When something happens, the state can look at the practice of the individual EMTs and paramedics, but there is limited ability to look at the agency. The situation like we found ourselves in here in the last couple of years with the whole ketamine controversy is a great opportunity to look at the entire state system. And totally agreed, right? Like we do need situations like this with really weird drugs like ketamine, sometimes called a psychedelic, are the authorities using it properly? And I think this is a good sign that in some cases, even though it's years late, we can improve drug policy. And I would call this kind of thing a drug policy and a psychedelic policy, right? Because this is one of the few, Ben Sessa called it on Twitter not that long ago, a clinical psychedelic.
Yeah, I think I do remember seeing that. Maybe he mentioned that in the podcast too.
Yeah. And I, said it's dissociative anesthetic with occasional psychedelic properties. People on Twitter liked that. But yeah, I
think
appreciate
an appropriate definition.
Yeah. So that's why ketamine, and that's why we brought that one up. I was supposed to start ketamine-assisted psychotherapy recently. I had a little hiccup, and it's certainly top of mind. I can't wait to report back my findings.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear how that goes.
Kyle, have you ever actually had a family of some of your clients kind of freak out that they're using ketamine in therapy?
I don't think so. I think just more curiosity of what it's like,
Hmm.
and what it's good for. But I haven't had any reports about
Okay.
people being freaked out. But I did do an interview. I think it was with Dell of France, actually, for the ketamine series that Veronica and I put together, and talked about the importance of actually trying to bring family into the treatment. And I think that should be, yeah, I don't know. It really got me thinking about how to include family into the treatment more, to get them more kind of psychoeducation around it and kind of be part of the process. It does seem really important for that
Mm,
person's journey.
right. So if yeah, as a story I heard recently, and you'll know who you are, but yeah, you go into the treatment, um, you come home, and there's no difference at home, right? You immediately start getting into the day-to-day grind with your partner, as opposed to your partner having enough psychoed to know that after some of these interventions, you're going to need a lot of space, and
Yeah.
sometimes the person's going to act a little different, right? Um, and then you have this massive transcendent experience. Who's to say your friends, family, and just people you're around are going to have any way to relate to that, especially a way that's positive for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
then you kind of get into that whole thing of like, when one person changes within the system, how does that, create disruption or maybe tension in the system? And,
Hmm.
is change possible when that starts to happen for some people? It can be really challenging.
Yeah.
So,
Amazing. All
yeah.
right. Well, anything else you want to throw in here, Kyle?
No, I don't think so. I think we're good for today. I know we got a wrap here. So thanks everybody for listening.
And great work, uh, Kyle, and the rest of the team here. We made it through most of 2021 without too many incidents. And get this, we didn't even have to do a whole episode on psychedelics and Santa Claus again. Um, so
Hey,
I call that a win.
I guess
Interesting
this is
topic,
the,
just
yeah.
not my not my favorite anymore. Um, but we made it. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. Couldn't do it without you. Um, if you want to help us out, check out our class, Navigating Psychedelics for Clinicians and Therapists. You can learn more at psychedelicstoday.com, and it starts January 6th. It's 9 weeks long, and I promise you'll love it. And there is a refund window. If you don't like it, you can drop out. All right, everybody. I think that's it for now. Thanks, Kyle,
All right,
and
thanks,
thanks
Chair.
everybody. And we'll do it again next time.
Take care.